one spirit, Whitecap whiskey. Um, since then, we've released our full brand line, which is Whitecap whiskey, 48 Blocks vodka, Liberty rum, Prosperity rum, and Rusted Revolver gin. And we released this year 2 new spirits. We're going to taste one of them tonight, which is 48 Blocks Dark, a chocolate martini pre-batched, which, by the way, is perfect for Mother's Day. For those of you that are looking for that, tired of buying flowers or allergic to pollen, this is your answer right here. That's why we released it 2 days before Valentine's Day, because it was an answer for that problem also. So we're going to start with Rusted Revolver gin. All right, it was our 5th and final major release. It's distilled from 16 different botanicals. So reach for your glass that has Rusted Revolver on the neck wrap, or I guess the label, the mini label, and pour it into that little cup that you have, or whatever cup you do have. And what I'd like you to do is get it up to your nose before you pour it in a glass with tonic and ice. Rusted Revolver has really been a fun one for us because it's made with 16 different botanicals. Many of them are indigenous to the area. And they come from the region here, everything from pine needles to black aronia, which grows in Ocean View, to cucumber, which we grow here in the garden, chamomile flower we grow here in the garden, and a number of other really unique ones. On the label, you'll see 5. You'll see chamomile flower, juniper berry, which has to be an all gin, pitch pine, species of pine that grows in the pine barrens that our friends from Pinelands Brewing like to sleep in at night, and coriander seed, which is something we also grow here in the garden. It's a seed that comes from ripened cilantro. Black aronia, which we get from Ocean View, which is a native currant, really gives kind of an earthy flavor to it. Get it up to your nose. I'm going to pour one out for myself. Gents, I've got some glasses and a bottle here if you'd like to serve yourselves. And see if you can hear. Raise your hand if you can. I don't see a screen right now, so raise your hand if you can pull any botanicals you'd like to shout out. Gentleman with the camera behind me, what are you getting out of this?
Coriander.
You got coriander. Interesting. I don't get any coriander, but that's great. I'm kidding. There's a lot of coriander. There's a lot of flower on the nose. The rose hips and the chamomile flower really kind of expose themselves in the first aroma. Once you taste it, you'll get a little bit of the citrus notes. So let's give it a taste. You should get a little bit of the orange peel and the lemon peel. And then on the finish, you'll get a little bit of a sage spice. This is proofed at 80. We went through a number of different proof levels. Gin sometimes can go up to 95, 96, 97. We went through a number of different iterations, and at 80, all the botanicals really kind of expose themselves and just dance nicely in the bottle. And that's where we wanted to keep it. We love it in a number of different cocktails. We like it, in a martini, just a classic martini. We like it with citrus and different lemon peels, orange peels, and pretty much anywhere your creativity takes you. And that's Rusted Revolver gin. The namesake is from a gun that we unearthed out back when we're building out the distillery. It's a 38 caliber, 1875 snub-nosed revolver that was hanging in the bathroom for 3 years until we released the product. And we were trying to figure out, what are we going to do with this awesome relic that we found outside? And this was the brand that kind of really tied it together, because the gun came from the ground around us, much like the botanicals. So, if you look at the label, you'll see 5 of those botanicals kind of enveloping the gun. Unfortunately, our neighborhood's really grown in the last few years, and an axe throwing studio opened up next to us, as well as a brewery. And that axe throwing studio just has people throwing axes against the wall day in and day out on weekends. And it creates this, soothing vibration that penetrates through the distillery walls. And I walked into the restroom about a month and a half ago, and I found three Rusted Revolvers in separate pieces laying in the box it was stored in. So we're trying to find a paleontologist that can put that one back together for us. But for now, it's safe in my home. That's Rusted Revolver gin. If you want to grab your next bottle, we're looking for Prosperity rum. Prosperity rum is really near and dear to us. We started this business to create rums. All right, Liberty rum and Prosperity rum is our rum line, and they're made from a molasses that's really, really delicious. It's a table molasses. It's not like a blackstrap or sort of a useless byproduct. It's a fairly high quality, unfortunately very expensive table grade molasses that has a really smooth, elegant flavor to it, and a softness. And when distilled, it yields some really cool flavors. We get some butterscotch out of it. We get some vanilla, almost a creme brulee. That's the silver rum, Liberty. Then we take that clear rum and we put it in 25-gallon New Chart American Oak barrels that were designed for making bourbon. And we let it age for about 14 to 18 months, depending on the climate, depending on, how things play out over time, where it is in the distillery versus, height versus kind of, lower parts of the distillery. And when it's ready, when we feel like those flavors have really kind of, penetrate into the spirit, we pull it and we bottle it. We always intended for this, and kind of said this from the start, that, as much as we love rum, it's probably the toughest category to launch a business on. It's like the Rodney Dangerfield of distilled spirits. It's just, it's relegated to, a mixing spirit. And we always wanted to create, a product that kind of defied that expectation. And I think we certainly hit it with Liberty, and we definitely hit it with Prosperity. So what we wanted for this was to be a product that would bridge bourbon drinkers into rum, into our rum category. Hence the smoky notes, hence the bourbon barrels we use to age it, mature it in. So get it up to get in the glass first, get it up to your nose. Your first impression is probably going to be something like smoke, a little bit of oak and vanilla. Or the bourbon smell. I mean, the barrels, much like the molasses we used to make it, the next expensive thing in this entire building are the barrels we use to age these in. They're 25-gallon barrels. They cost about $280 a piece, and they don't have a whole lot of use afterwards. Although we'll talk about that in a second. We did find a use for them, and that's Prosperity rum. So give it a sip. It's proofed at 80. Again, it has some of that rum elegance, but it's got that that smokiness that you get from a bourbon. And when people ask me how I enjoy it, it's usually like this: a glass in this hand and a cigar in this hand. I drink it just like a bourbon, but we also use it in kind of like whiskey and bourbon style mixology. We make an old fashioned with this. We use Prosperity rum, a little bit of aromatic bitters, a little bit of orange bitters, and agave syrup. Spin it over ice, pour in a glass on a big rock, and we garnish it with an orange peel. And it's pretty much the second best old fashioned you'll have. The first best is the one that we make with Whitecap whiskey. We sell as a pre-batch cocktail. We'll taste that at next year's Captain's Table event. And that brings us to the problem solver. 48 Blocks Dark. So we had no intentions of ever doing anything with vodka at all. And then we launched 48 Blocks, and it became our biggest seller on the island. And now we sell it throughout the state. And actually this year we sell it in New York and Connecticut. We definitely had no intentions of doing anything with a flavored vodka. And we got in a conversation with friends of ours that used to have a chocolate, basically a chocolatier in Atlantic City. And they were kind of exploring the idea of doing a chocolate-based vodka with their new product. And we kind of dabbled around the idea a little bit, or dabbled in the idea. We decided that, what we really do well is cocktails. So we took a cocoa husk and a cocoa nib. It's a Guatemalan bean, the same one that they're using for their product, their chocolate product. And we steeped it in 48 Blocks vodka for about 6 days in large quantity, in about 90-gallon batches. And then we take a simple syrup made from a demerara sugar. That's basically a sugar in the raw that has some molasses around the grain. And right at the outset of this project, I get introduced to a baker in Mount Holly. And he's like one of the most interesting people I've met. Incredible baker, like really, really interesting human being. And like all entrepreneurs, he goes on vacation once every blue moon. And 3 years ago, I guess almost 4 years ago now, he goes on vacation to Costa Rica, and he comes back owning a vanilla farm. And so he grows 100 acres of vanilla for about, I guess it was a 3-year ripening period, takes possession of them about 9 months ago, and he built an extraction lab above the bakery. And for 6 months, kind of created an vanilla extract from the pods that he brought in from Costa Rica. And it makes the most amazing vanilla extract. Really, never had anything like it. I mean, just aromatically, it blows you away. You know exactly what vanilla is supposed to taste like when you put it to your nose. So we meet him, and we decide this is the perfect, kind of third element for our cocktail, our martini. So now we became his first commercial customer, and 48 Blocks Dark was born, released 2 days before Valentine's Day. And it's 48 blocks vodka, Costa Rican vanilla extract, a Guatemalan cocoa husk and cocoa nib, and a simple syrup we make in house. And it's truly a problem solver. I'm gonna pour this in your glass, all right? Get it up to your nose. Talk amongst yourselves while I grab some ice. I'm back. Back again. And I'm going to show you exactly how this puppy's made. So, shake it with ice. Let's try another one. About 4 to 6 ounces, depending on how big that problem really is. 48 blocks dark. Shake it up. Strain it into a glass. That's all she wrote. Sometimes we'll garnish it with an orange peel, a mint leaf. Look, I've got a mint leaf right here. No luck at all. So we use an orange peel, which brings out some of the citrus notes. Basically just take it, get some of those oils across the glass, go around the rim, just garnish with a peel, and hand it off to the loveliest lady in the room.
There you go.
48 blocks dark. Again, Mom will love you for it. Just swing out to any liquor store in and around Atlantic County, get her a bottle, hand her a rose or something meaningless like that, and have a wonderful Mother's Day with it. Now, that's my shtick, but I'm going to wrap around at the end, and we're going to talk about one last spirit, which we actually did with one of the breweries here today, Pinelands Brewing, and it was made with their beer, Evan John Porter. We distilled it into a spirit, and we're going to taste that with their beer when they get around to it. They're the third one to speak, but first up, my friend Mike Geller from 3 Threes Brewing in Hamilton. Really, really talented guy with a great product, and frankly, one of my favorite beers next to the other two that are here.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. 3 Threes were third best, right? Do you have some cups? Hey, thank you. Well, I just want to say thank you to everybody for having me, Mark for hosting here, and all the great people that have worked hard to put this together today. So I'm Mike Geller. I'm from 3 Threes Brewing. I'm one of the owners, one of the brewers, head janitor, whatever you want to call me for the day, as most of us that are in small business are. So for today, we brought our Pitter Patter Pilsner for you. So if you're a craft beer drinker, you know there's certain types of beer that make breweries run. Pilsner is not generally one of them. This is a German-style lager. They take quite a bit of time to make, and they're certainly not the most in-demand beers. But what's interesting about them is they're definitely the favorite of brewers. So if you guys want to go ahead and open up your cans here, we've got some here. I think everybody has some. Would you like some? So what you'll notice about this, pour yourself a little bit in your glass here. If anybody doesn't have any, you guys are good. So you definitely want to smell this first. The aroma on this, you're going to get a lot of the green coming through. I get just a little bit of citrus. Really, it's a clean German lager. So what you're smelling mostly is the lager character of the yeast. So if you want to go ahead and take a sip of this, this is going to be super crystal clear. You'll notice there's some bubbles coming up from my glass. There should be from yours as well. Give it a sip. What you're going to get here is a really nice, clean lager. You're not going to get a lot of astringency. You're not going to get a lot of citrus character. It's very nice. It's very clean. This is made with German floor malted barley. So we actually import the barley from Germany. We also import the hops that are in this beer. So we used a little bit of we went a little bit off the tradition. This uses some newer school German hops. So when lagers were first invented and Pilsner in Pilsen, Germany, they pretty much used Hellertau Mittelfrüh. That is the most notable hop. So we use some of the newer school hops. So there's a lot going on in the brewing industry right now with hop breeding and crossbreeding and coming up with all kinds of new flavors and aromas to accentuate beer and give us different flavors. So what we did is we took two different hops that aren't common partners at all and aren't common to a German Pilsner. That'd be Hellertau Blanc and Kalista, both of which are fairly new in the scheme of German beer. We blend them together into this beer, so you get some nice little citrus character, which is a bit of a twist off the norm from a German Pilsner. But I think it gives it a nice, clean character. I think it's super easy drinking. And this is, honestly, if you ask most brewers, this is what we all judge each other on. There's not much to hide behind. It's not exactly, it's really a beer that showcases brewers' style and flair. So this is something that we make on a rotational basis at 3 Threes. You can find cans out and around all around the state of New Jersey right now. So you should be able to ask for them, pick them up. You'll find it on draft at select accounts as well. To me, this pairs perfectly with Mother's Day dinner, to spin off Mark. It's also great for if you're working in the yard as we're getting into spring here. I know if I cut the grass or I'm outside, landscaping or something like that, it's a nice refreshing beer to finish that off. It goes great with any sort of meats for dinner, your burgers, steaks, anything like that. It's going to be a nice, clean, crisp partner to that. And frankly, sports are coming around, so it's a great parking lot beer for tailgating, as COVID's opening up. And it's just something we really love making. So the brewery's been around for about 5 years now. We distribute all over New Jersey, so wherever you might be located, whether it's in Atlantic City or out and around the state in the area, you should be able to find our beer. We're mostly known for our IPAs. That's kind of, like I mentioned earlier, the engines that drive breweries right now. But this is something special to us as brewers. This is something that we take pride in sharing with our friends and fellow brewers, and really just something we enjoy drinking. So we want to bring something a little bit different and ensure that you guys got a selection of different types of flavors and beers tonight. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. I'm going to turn it back over to our friend Mark. So thank you guys.
Very good. Very good.
Very tasty. Yeah, I absolutely love this beer. I really do. And when he said they were making a Pilsner, I was
Good
just,
quaffing beer.
as you described, it's really good for everything. Mother's Day, mowing the lawn, tailgating, drowning your sorrows, meeting a new friend. But yeah, this is absolutely one of my favorites. Yeah, my family's from Germany, and like trying to find a good Pilsner around here is literally not that hard anymore. Thank you very much, Michael. So next we have Tim from Hidden Sands. Just flew in from Florida, and boy, his arms are tired. The latest addition to a great brewery from our area, and he's doing great things. So he's going to tell us about his newest West Coast IPA.
Hey, how's it going, guys? My name's Tim Buds. I work at Hidden Sands Brewery out in Egg Harbor Township. Just moved up here from Florida in January, so a couple months ago. I have the 107 IPA for your drinking pleasure. Let's see. So IPAs are one of the biggest crazes right now in beer. The terminology stands for Indian Pale Ale. That stands from when the British were colonizing the world. They were going all over the place, and the beer was going bad on boats. So they threw in hops as a preservative, and that's what the IPA comes from. This is a West Coast IPA, so it's going to be a little more on the malt forward, well balanced side, and some of the hazier stuff you've been seeing right now. Coming up from Florida, I worked at a Belgian style brewery. So Belgian beers are a whole thing upon themselves, and it's a very tricky style to brew. I've never actually brewed an IPA, so this is my first one, and I'm pretty proud of it. I added Chinook and Citra for the dry hop. So if you talk to brewers, there's all sorts of different opinions and ways to add hops to beer. A lot of it's hot side, cold side. The cold side's the dry hopping, and that's what really brings out the aroma. Adds some flavor, but mainly the acids you're unlocking are for the smell. So if you smell it, the ones I use, the Chinook and Citra, you get a lot of like citrus, slightly green, piney, almost like a orange juice. Then when you taste it, the malt backbone kind of comes through. And that's what we call like a well-balanced beer. And the difference between something that's like too much one direction or the other, we balance that sweetness with the bitterness from hops. When you get into hops, you have your IBUs, which is the International Bitter Unit. That's interesting when it's perceived, because if you see like a stout that has a high IBU, the malt sweetness will cover that. So it's not particularly like a straightforward equation, but it's something cool to consider when you're at a bar and like looking at the menu of what they got on tap. This one is, I think, 6.5%, so it's the kind of middle ground alcohol level, which is nice. You can sip it. It could be sessionable, but also if you want to have a bunch of them, you might want to pump the brakes.
Call an Uber tonight? Is that what you're
Yeah, you can call an Uber, but not you guys, because you're sitting at your home. So you should drink it quickly. I know. The 107 is an interesting name too, because what we did is we dug a well. So Hidden Sands, we pride ourselves on the water, and water is one of the main ingredients in making beer. We dug a well 800 feet down to the aquifer, so that's where the 107 foot comes from. We have a whole series of different beers at different water levels depending on the style. We get very, very clean water from the aquifer in New Jersey. That being the base of all of our beers makes it really easy to brew. I have a clean slate to manipulate if I want to add different mineral levels, such as the salts, electrolytes, for the Gatorade fans out there. It's really good water to brew with, and it helps me make the best beer possible. Come on down and see me, hang out. I like making new friends. I'm new to the state, so I'm terrible with names. I apologize in advance. But all you guys, like, let's high five and drink beer and just hang out, have a good time.
All right.
Cheers.
Thanks, Tim. And Tim's second biggest contribution to the area is his girlfriend, who is actually one of our servers and a wonderful woman. And thanks so much for introducing it to us. Come out and meet Tim and Tim's girlfriend at Little Water Distillery. So next up, we have Pinelands Brewing. Rob, who will explain everything about it.
Thank you, sir.
As you pour his beer, also grab the fourth bottle, which is the Beer Buddies. And that's made with the beer that we're about to try next. I'm going to get your beer.
Sure. How we doing, everybody? First off, thank you to Mark and everybody involved in this great event tonight. A little different than other years, but that's the world we live in. So I'm Rob Shea. I'm one of the owners at Pinelands Brewery. We're in Little Egg Harbor, New Jersey, right kind of in the heart of the Pinelands Reserve. So one of the things we pride ourselves on is kind of our tagline and our mantra is as pure as the pines. And that's kind of a philosophy of ours at Pinelands Brewery. And really what it is when you look west of like Ocean County from the coast, look out west through New Jersey, you're looking over the Pine Barrens, right? The Pinelands Preserve, which is makes up 22% of New Jersey's landmass, which is pretty impressive. It is one of the largest preserves in the United States, bigger than, I believe, Grand Canyon and I believe Yosemite. So the unique thing about the Pinelands Preserve is when you do look west and you look in that Pine Barrens region, there's no industry. There's no plants, there's no industry, and there really never has been. So underneath that preserve lies the Kirkwood Cohasset Aquifer, which is where we draw our water. And Tim was talking about the importance of water in brewing beer. It is absolutely one of the most important things. And we derive our water from that very pristine The USGS referred to the Kirkwood Cohasset aquifer as melted glacier ice, and it was that pristine. So we're fortunate to be where we are. So tonight we're enjoying, and if you can keep up, because we're moving pretty good between shots, a martini, a few beers, and now we're on to our beer, which is Evan John Porter. This is actually one of our original beers that we started brewing at Pineland 7 years ago. This is a porter, right? Pretty much porters begin in England, London area. This is brewed with some Maris Otter malts, 2-row, some black malt, and then Chinook hops. Unique thing about this beer is we use fresh Madagascar vanilla beans. We split them open, and we scrape the vanilla out, and that's the flavor you're gonna get from this beer. So it is a porter, and you do smell the vanilla. It's a really nice, light kind of vanilla aroma, and a nice light vanilla kind of taste as you drink it. People tend to think of porters as heavy, dark beers. Porters are not heavy, dark beers. Stouts are heavy, dark beers, milk stouts, things like that. But this porter is actually pretty easy drinking. It's hard to see, but it's not really, really, really dark beer. If you put it up at the light, you can actually kind of start to see through it. You get some great vanilla aroma from this beer. It's really a pretty easy drinking on the darker kind of scaled beers for a porter. It's a nice, bit refreshing, and ironically, for the ladies out there, since Mother's Day is coming up, and we'll just jump on your bandwagon. A lot of women that come into our brewery enjoy this beer and love this beer, and not to be stereotypical, but women tend to avoid darker beers. I don't know. Am I right, ladies? No, but all right. Do I have a yes here? All right. So we're 50-50 right now, but this is a great beer. We also call this jokingly at our brewery our gateway beer. This is the beer that kind of gets people, once they come in the door, they go, I've never been to a brewery, which it's hard to believe today, but I don't drink craft beer. Try this. And they go, wow, it's a great beer. So we're really proud of this beer. This is one of our flagships. We also distribute throughout the state of New Jersey. You can pick this up, and this is one of those beers that's always on tap at the brewery, and typically in cans out throughout the state of New Jersey, and mostly Atlantic Ocean, Monmouth counties, but you can find it in some different nooks and crannies throughout New Jersey. But very proud of this beer. Like I said, it was one of our originals. Our founder named it after his son, so that's where the Evan John came from. And again, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Mark.
Oh, thank you.
And Mark's going to segue into.
You're not going anywhere. You're staying right here with me. You're staying right here with me.
I have to do one with
So
you.
these guys make so much of this beer that one year they made about 250 gallons extra, and they sent it over to us.
That year happened to be COVID, too.
It happened to be COVID, exactly. And we took that beer, we distilled it into a spirit. And that's your fourth spirit. So if you grab the spirit named Beer Buddies, and I'm going to hand this over to the brewers that are chit-chatting over there. You can try it. And you kind of bring it up to your nose, and then bring the Evan John Porter up to your nose.
Definitely get that vanilla.
Try them together, because what we did this for is to really kind of, it's almost like a beer enhancer. And this concentrates some of the core flavors in the beer, and it almost opens them up in your mouth while you're trying the beer. So it's kind of like a thin man's beer in a shot. It's like the Pineland Citywide Special, if you will. And
Giving them too much credit.
You definitely, the incredible thing is.
they got the best one in the world. What are you talking about?
The incredible thing is you went from this to this clear
Yeah.
liquor, and it's the vanilla taste is still there for sure.
When he was saying you could
Very
actually see
smooth.
through the beer, he was talking about this. You can't actually see through the beer. You can see through the Beer Buddies, is what he was I think, referring to earlier.
buddy.
Buddy,
Happy Mother's Day.
I'll be celebrating just like this. So that is Captain's Table Light this year, although not that light if you look at all the glasses and cups around here right now. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We hope you guys learned a little bit about what we do and our products, and of course, what this event is all about. We hope you continue to follow the Food Bank and the Captain's Table, and Let Us Eat Please, and continue to support and work hard to help the people that are working hard. So that's our event for this evening. Thank you so much for joining. You know where to find us. Everyone's told you about where you can buy our products. And, you know, mom's waiting. Fill her up this winter, okay?